we need to have a little bit of a chat about Medicare and Medicaid. Um, so first of all, I'm not going to sit here and say that the Republicans are going to take away Medicare and Medicaid. Um, there's lots of left-wing media, liberal media channels to tell you about that. What I want to talk to you about is, and it's sad that I have to even explain this, and it's not a right-wing thing, right-wing, left-wing. I see the same kind of behavior. For some reason, I don't know the psychology behind it, but people act as if they're not aware of subterfuge, um, deception. It really is as if they're just not aware of these concepts. So, case in point, the fact that I have to make this statement. If the Republicans are in fact going to take away Medicare or Medicaid, they're not just going to say it. They're not going to say, "Hey, we're taking away Medicare, Medicaid." Trump is not going to pass a bill that says shut down Medicare, Medicaid. He'll do for Board of Education, right? He'll do it for USAID, but I just want to be clear. If they were going to do it, they wouldn't just say it, right? I would hope that conservatives would know that. So, that being the case, if people are telling you that they're going to take away Medicare, Medicaid, I know you guys would not be relying on whether or not Republicans have stated that they're going to do it or not. So you never hear a bunch of left-wingers saying they're going to cut Medicaid, and then you would never respond and say Trump never said he was going to take it, and in fact he said the opposite. And the Republican Party never said they're going to do this. They've said the opposite. They said they're going to protect it. I'm sure every American knows how corrupt politicians are and how much they lie. So that being the case, next to no one should be waiting for or looking for the Republican Party to be honest about something that would be toxic politically. Right? So let's start with that baseline. So whether they've said they're going to do it or not should not be relevant. Right? I don't think this is any different than with the Democrats. Right? Whether they said they were going to do something or not has limited relevance, right? Again, most Americans think of politicians as dishonest, right? And that can't just be the opposition party, right? It's a political thing, right? So whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, you should be very skeptical about politicians, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, right? Politicians are dishonest, they're sketchy, they're manipulative, right? So again, no one should be talking about whether Trump or Republicans said they're going to take away these benefits or not, or whether they said they're going to protect them or not. That should be almost irrelevant. Now, that being said, and really, again, I would hope that conservatives would be aware of this, and I wouldn't have to explain this, but based on my experience, folks on the left, folks on the right, in this country, I don't know why they don't get this. If in fact they were going to take these benefits away, they would be sneaky about it, right? They're not going to just say they're going to take it away. This is what they would do, just based on if you've been paying attention to how Republicans operate. What they would do is they would basically suffocate the programs, right? So what you'd want to do is you'd want to lay off a bunch of people who are part of the program. You would want to basically do everything you can do without actually touching the program itself. You haven't shut it down, you haven't attacked the actual program, right? But what you're doing is you are suffocating it, right? So, for example, if you laid off 50% of the staff for Medicaid and Medicare, right? That in effect is taking away Medicare and Medicaid, because if people are unable to get their applications in, they're unable to get through on the phone, you know, a lot less people are going to be able to get their benefits, right? Um, when mistakes are made, if there aren't enough people there to address mistakes and correct them, again, you're going to be taking away Medicare, Medicaid from a lot of people. So that's the way that they would really do it. Also, and the folks on the left know this already. You would do things like, for example, you have a department or part of the government where a lot of the funding for Medicare or Medicaid or whatever program you want to target, so the funding is coming from this department, right? What you do is you do cuts on that division, not on the Medicare and Medicaid, right? So you can pretend like you're not attacking it, right? So, for example, case in point, I forgot the name of the department, but there was a department where they're trying to cut like 800 billion or something like that, and basically a majority of the budget of that division goes towards the programs that they claim they're not cutting. So this is the way it works. So it's like, in other words, if in fact they're going to cut Medicare and Medicaid, they're not going to admit it. In fact, if it's bad enough politically, they will say the opposite and say, no, 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 we don't want to protect it, and it's good, and we will protect it, right? That's what they would do. And then what they would do is everything else except be very, very specifically targeting the program, right? So, for example, let me give an analogy. So there's a free bus program for kids to get to school, right? And my party wants to get rid of it, but we don't want to admit it because that's unpopular. People are like, oh, you can take away school buses, like that's crazy, right? But then when people attack us, like, oh, we're not taking away school buses. We want to protect the school buses, right? It's an important thing, and we're going to protect it, right? So if you vote for me, when people tell you that I want to take away school buses, you're going to say, no, that's not true. You're going to say, Debate Me channel said he's not going to do that and he wants to protect it. You guys are morons. You're spreading fake news. So then what I would actually do is, rather than me passing a bill to shut down the school buses, what I would do is, under the guise of, cutbacks, because we got to balance the budget, what I would do is I would lay off half of the bus drivers. So technically, I haven't attacked the bus program. I haven't said to shut it down. I haven't said to reduce the programs. I haven't said, let's have less buses. I've done everything else except very directly attack the bus program. But if I fire half of the bus drivers, then that means that half of the buses won't have drivers for them. So that means it's effectively, I'm cutting the bus program in half. But I have a deniability where I can say, no, 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 we don't want to attack the bus program. We support the bus program, right? And then some of these really dishonest politicians, if you call them out and say, wait a minute, you're firing half of the bus drivers. If you don't, if half the buses don't have drivers, then isn't that like cutting the program? Oh, not at all, not at all. There's ways that they can do it, and there's an efficient strategy, and it's not like every bus is being used at the same time, and they'll say all kinds of stuff to make it sound like just gaslighting, like, oh, we're not cutting whatever. So again, I'm not trying to say that they're cutting Medicaid, or they're looking to do that. What I'm saying is, as a conservative, if you're thinking about whether or not they're going to do these types of things, you should be your thought process should be, you know, looking for sneaky business, right? Reading between the lines, um, and again, you should not be relying at all on what the Republicans say they're going to do or what they want to do or what they said they're going to protect. And I mean, they're politicians, right? If you wouldn't trust a Democrat saying those types of things, why would you trust a Republican, right? Politicians are not to be trusted. So if someone says they're going to cut something, before you jump on them and say, oh, it's fake news, and then you say, oh, Trump said the opposite, I want you to do your own investigation and look into it and see if there's any kind of sneaky business going on, because that's the way they would do it. They wouldn't do it up front. That should not be something that you should be expecting at all whatsoever. Um, so at a minimum, if you don't want to spend the time investigating these things, please shut your mouths talking about Trump said the opposite or Republicans said they don't want to do it. They're politicians. They're politicians. Don't trust what they say, right? Don't trust what a Democrat says. Don't trust what a Republican says, right? I'm not a Democrat, never been a Democrat, but I wouldn't argue based on what Kamala Harris claimed or what Joe Biden claimed. Like, why would I be defending them based on their words? They're politicians. So don't do the same thing. Don't tell us what Trump said and what Republicans said. I'm not saying what their words don't mean anything, but I'm saying that's not something you should be relying on. If the only information you have about the cuts is what the Republicans have claimed, then just consider that you don't know anything about it. So just don't even engage in the conversations, right? Because you don't know anything about it. Anyway, this is the Debate Me channel. Debate Me comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well. I'm gonna think a little bit deeper, man. I know people, people in your life that have been sneaky. You've had kids that have been sneaky. You've had corporations that have been sneaky. So all of you guys are well aware that people talk out of both sides of their mouths and can be slippery, right? Oh, no, I didn't mean that. You know this. So don't act like the politicians who you like wouldn't do such things, because they can and will more often than not.